One of the aspects of communication that I hear most about from non-native speakers in US business culture is direct versus indirect communication. Let's look at the differences. With direct communication, verbal language tends to be explicit, even blunt sometimes. Direct communication occurs when a speaker's true intentions are communicated in their verbal message. It expresses their needs and desires explicitly. I want you to do X. When a direct communicator wants or needs something, they'll come right out and say it. In the workplace, value is placed on freedom of expression. The idea of saving face is less important than being straightforward or candid. Communication is efficient, focused on getting things done. People often don't want to hear all the background or all of the context. They might want just the gist of it, the most important things they need to know and get the job done. And in the direct style, silence or hesitance is a warning sign that someone is either not paying attention or indifferent about the issue. Now, in an indirect communication style, what someone says might never be explicitly stated, forcing the listener to try and infer the meaning. Nonverbal language, like eye contact, helps to communicate the indirect message. Silence and hesitance might show respect for an individual or a team. Teams will prioritize group harmony instead of personal agendas or desires. And finally, a speaker will intentionally frame their message so that no one in the meeting will lose face, including themselves. In the US and many European cultures, direct communication is usually the preferred style. In other cultures, including African and some Asian countries, indirect communication is more prevalent. Now, to a direct speaker, indirect verbal communication is often considered evasive, even untrustworthy, while to an indirect speaker, direct verbal communication is perceived as harsh, even rude. And it can be really frustrating for speakers in cultures where direct communication is the norm to interact with speakers in or from cultures that use indirect communication. For example, a manager has just received a poorly written report intended for the executive committee. And if the manager is a direct communicator, then they might say to the employee, "You've made a number of errors and incorrect assumptions in this report, especially in the section on risk prevention. Go back, check your data, and proofread your work." If the manager is an indirect communicator, then they might take a gentler approach and say, "It seems there are some mistakes in this report, and readers may question some of your assumptions. Could I ask you to check it over one more time before finalizing it?" Now, the goal is the same for direct and indirect communicators. They want the employee to turn in a better report. However, the second request may require interpretation. It can be difficult for someone unaccustomed to a particular style of communication to guess at the underlying message of indirect communication. And this can often create a roadblock to meaningful communication. With direct communication, there is less risk of misunderstanding, but a higher risk of surprising or offending the receiver. And with indirect communication, there is more risk of misunderstanding, but less risk of offending the receiver. Now, in the workplace, the potential for tension and stress increases when these two different styles converge. Handling differences requires empathy, understanding, and flexibility. Mostly, it requires that we explicitly acknowledge the differences so teams can better understand that miscommunication around these dichotomies is not personal. Recognize how your style might affect others and become more flexible in how you approach people with a different style.